In the 10th year of my long-distance relationship with Gu Yinian, I accidentally answered his phone. A gentle female voice came from the other end. "Nyan, our baby gave birth to a litter of kittens." The caller ID clearly read Little Flower Cat. Coldly I replied, "He's in the shower, call back later." Then I hung up. That night, Gu Yinian frantically grabbed the clothes scattered on the floor, threw them on and rushed out. I smashed our home, erased every trace of myself and boarded a plane headed abroad. 3 years later, Gu Yinian cornered me on a resort island, staring intently at the little toddler beside me who bore a resemblance to him. His eyes red, he demanded an answer. That night, he was full of energy, and I was too exhausted to keep my eyes open. My phone kept ringing beside me, half asleep. I answered it. A sweet, gentle voice came through. "Nyan, our baby gave birth to a litter of kittens." Instantly, all drowsiness vanished and my head felt like it would explode. I glanced at the caller ID. "Little Flower Cat, Nyan," the voice called again. Taking a deep breath, I replied calmly, "He's in the shower, call back later." After a moment of silence, the other end hung up. When Gu Yinian came out of the bathroom, he had only a towel wrapped around his waist. Unwiped droplets trailed down his muscle lines into the towel and there were fresh scratch marks on his body, my handiwork. "Why aren't you sleeping more?" He stared at my red-marked collarbone, his eyes darkening as he leaned down to get closer. I handed him the phone. He frowned in displeasure, snatched the phone away, tossed it aside, then pinned my wrists down, his breath drifting over me. "Little Flower Cat," I said. The man buried against my neck froze instantly. "She called to say your baby gave birth." Gu Yinian jolted awake, frantically grabbed the clothes scattered by the bed, threw them on and rushed out. I stayed alone in the home we had decorated together, watching him run off to another girl, his blind date. They had started talking 3 months earlier, confirmed the relationship within a month, and adopted a stray cat together. He would share food, music, even an ordinary cloud with her. He would earnestly reply to her messages, crop me out of random dinner photos before sending them to her. Meanwhile, the chat history between Gu Yinian and me contained nothing but work. Only during the intimacy of the night would he whisper "wife" in my ear, a term used solely for flirtation, yet I had treasured it like a precious gem for 10 full years. I smiled, fished out Gu Yinian's pack of cigarettes from the drawer. It had been so long since I last smoked that I choked on the first puff, tears streaming down my face. A message came from my colleague Yao Yao. "Sister Xiangwan, did you know that Gu Yinian is in a relationship?" Gu Yinian and I had always been strictly professional in front of others, often clashing over disagreements. No one could ever imagine the scene where he would pull me onto his lap, teasing me and saying, "She's the one I chose." Myself, what can I do? Just spoil her. Today, Gu Yinian added that girl to the company group chat. "Hello everyone, I'm Xu Jiaojiao, Mr. Gu's little assistant, please take care of me." Her group nickname was Nyan's Little Flower Cat. Some things didn't need to be said aloud, they were understood without words. I didn't know how Gu Yinian explained the phone call I had answered, but Xu Jiaojiao added everyone in the company, clearly planning to check them one by one. Yaro Yaro sent an emoji rolling its eyes. "I'm already annoyed from work and now I'm treated as a rival." In no time, Xu Jiaojiao posted on her moments a cup of green tea with the caption, "Don't just touch someone else's phone, it's bad manners." Gu Yinian even liked it, expressionless. I picked up a baseball bat nearby and smashed the place into a complete mess, only stopping when the ruins made me smile in satisfaction. When the housekeeping team arrived, I sat on the only sofa still intact, staring into space, not because the sofa was so precious, I was just truly exhausted, too tired to move. "Miss Xia, are you okay?" one of them asked, probably seeing how disheveled I looked. Gu Yinian's chat window still showed no reply from 2 hours ago. I shook my head gently and gave a genuine smile. "Remove all the women's items from here." Gu Yinian and I were college classmates. He grew up in a compound where his family had already paved a clear path for him. All he had to do was follow, but stubborn as he was, he cut ties with his family and started his own business. I became his first partner. He put up the money and I did the work. I asked him why he chose me, given that there were plenty of people in college who were more outstanding than I was. Twirling his pen, he fixed his gaze on me, his eyes full of genuine amusement. "I like your refusal to give in. Once my ambitious vitality was what he admired, later that same ambition became something he feared. Xu Jiaojiao is nothing like me, she's gentle and innocent, exactly the kind of unambitious, delicate flower Jiyu Yinian needs, someone willing to revolve around him. She knows clearly what she wants and takes action to get it. Jiyu Yinian and I are actually the same kind of people. We resist, we struggle like lurking predators, locked in an unspoken, strategic battle in the business world. Our cunning in social maneuvering and ruthlessness in execution helped us rise swiftly and earn our first pot of gold that night. We both drank too much, lying on the bed surrounded by scattered red banknotes. Jiyu Yinian turned his head to look at me. His eyes held an emotion I couldn't read, but his tone was warm. You're really something. I smiled. Not so bad yourself. After a year of high-intensity work, this young master finally fell ill with a high fever. I was busy taking care of him when he turned over and pinned me beneath him. I still remember the red rims of his eyes, his body burning with fever, as red as a fully cooked braised prawn. I like you. This time, no pause, no qualifiers, he no longer held back his feelings. The faint scent of tobacco mixed with mint lingered at my nose, his soft gasps swallowed by his kisses. Everything was so hot it set my blood on fire, willingly plunging me into oblivion. I moved back to my own place. Over the years, I'd grown spoiled and developed a habit of not sleeping well in unfamiliar beds. Now I lay awake all night. When I returned to the office, I ran into Jiyu Yinian. I nodded politely and distantly, but he furrowed his brow. Ainyan, Xu Jiaojiao trotted over and stood between us. Hello, I'm Ainyan's fiancé. I nodded and replied, hello. Hearing my voice, his expression flickered with a crack of something unreadable. Without further pleasantries, I stepped straight into the elevator. Xiao Nuan, is that you? Xu Jiaojiao hurried after her, with Jiyu Yinian close behind. I often hear Nian mention you. You're very capable at work, but women really shouldn't be out in the public eye too much or spend too much time around men. It's much more relaxing to go shopping or get a beauty treatment with your girlfriends. Leave the hard work to the men, don't you agree, Nian? Jiyu Yinian gently tousled her hair, his tone extremely tender. Would I dare say no? Faced with Xu Jiaojiao's provocation, I didn't react much. She had probably recognized my voice and was eager to flaunt their relationship in front of me, staking her claim over Jiyu Yinian. When I asked for advice at the company, I proposed that the HR department arrange training with meals and accommodation included. I ignored the reactions of the people behind me and brushed off the spot Xu Jiaojiao had touched. However, my response angered Jiyu Yinian. After sending Xu Jiaojiao away, he came straight into my office. I frowned in displeasure. Mr. Jiyu, knocking is basic courtesy. I stressed the last 4 words heavily. I'd returned Xu Jiaojiao's words to her. He smirked, bending down to trap me between his arms and the sofa. You were the one who opened the door last night. His eyes swept over the hem of my skirt, laden with implication. Without hesitation, I slapped him across the face. His fair skin instantly bloomed with a vivid red handprint. Jiyu Yinian pressed his tongue against his cheek, smiled and sat down across from me. The villa in the western suburbs, I've already had it transferred to your name, and that plot of land you liked before is about to be approved. He lifted his eyelids slightly, his expression calm. Let's part on good terms. He always knew exactly how to strike me where it hurt. The knife I had handed him was now being driven back into my own body. At that moment he looked down on me, just like my so-called stepfathers, professing love while buying it off with money, dressing up the game of a lover's fleeting thrill as something done in the name of love. When Xu Jiaojiao arrived with a lunchbox, she walked right into me, splashing water on Jiyu Yinian. She screamed, rushed in and slapped me across the face. I've never been one to take a loss. The only exception was probably falling for Jiyu Yinian. This time my raised hand stopped midair, seized by Jiyu Yinian. He stood in front of Xu Jiaojiao, his voice tinged with anger. Xiong Nuan, this is not the place for you to throw a tantrum. I raised my other hand and slapped him hard across the face. Looking at the symmetrical handprints on Jiyu Yinian's face, I felt a wave of satisfaction. Without Nian, could a woman like you have risen to where you are today? Xu Jiaojiao stepped forward to defend Jiyu Yinian. You're fired. On what grounds? Xu Jiaojiao raised her chin, trying to appear imposing. On the grounds that I own 30% of the shares. And on the grounds that you barged into my office without permission and assaulted a senior executive. Xu Jiaojiao panicked, her eyes darting away, seeing that Jiyu Yinian didn't scold her. She continued to provoke me brazenly. Nyan is the majority shareholder, and I'm Nyan's fiancé. Who do you think you are? If anyone should leave, it's you. A crowd had already gathered outside the office door. Jiyu Yinian didn't say a word, silently approving her behavior and backing her up. There was no point in continuing this argument. Fine, let's call it quits. I'll transfer my shares to you at market price. Jiyu Yinian, I've done my part. Jiyu Yinian, who had been silent all along, showed a crack in his cold expression when I took out the agreement, probably because he hadn't expected me to have already drafted it, ready to leave. Xu Jiaojiao smiled faintly. The favored indeed have no fear. Who called the police? I covered my face as I stepped forward, stumbling a little. Officer, I was hit. Now I feel dizzy and nauseous. The hospital confirmed a mild concussion. If I refuse to settle, Xu Jiaojiao will be detained for at least a few days. Jiyu Yinian smirked, looking as if he had seen through the whole act. Xu Jiaojiao, however, finally panicked and nervously tugged at his sleeve. Nyan, I don't want to spend the night here, I'm scared. Jiyu Yinian whispered soothingly. Don't be afraid, I've got everything under control. After leaving the police station, Jiyu Yinian pulled me into the shadows and said coldly, you've lost all dignity for money. I grabbed his tie and yanked it hard, forcing him to lower his head to my level. If you step on me to boost your new flame, you'd better be ready for the consequences. Instead of getting angry, Jiyu Yinian smiled, placed his hand on my lower back, and pulled me closer. If you'd just tone down that temper, what man wouldn't want you? I pushed him away in disgust and turned toward the parking lot. Jiyu Yinian followed, his voice neither loud nor soft. You know my mom hasn't been well these past couple of years. Xu Jiaojiao just happens to suit her taste. I ignored him and opened the car door, but he raised his hand to block it. Xiong Nuan, I can give you everything except marriage. Get lost. I slammed the car door and sped off. In the rearview mirror, he stood with his hands in his pockets, backlit, his expression unreadable. The street lamp cast a long, lonely shadow of him. Back in the hospital bathroom, I spun in circles and gagged myself until I vomited, feeling disgusted with both Jiyu Yinian and Xu Jiaojiao. But it wasn't easy on me either. I went home and crashed. The next morning I got a call from my mom. Xiao Nuan, you haven't come home for dinner in so long. I checked the date and agreed. When I opened the door, an unfamiliar face appeared. My mom introduced him. Xiao Nuan, this is your Uncle Wang. I sighed. This Uncle Wang was different from the refined, wealthy men she usually dated. He seemed like the kind of person who knows how to live a steady life. At the dinner table, my mom eagerly served me food. Xiao Nuan, Uncle Wang has a son who just graduated. Could you let him work at your company? Though I had expected this, I still felt a flicker of disappointment. I quit my job. Why would you quit when things were going well? Did you upset Mr. Jiyu? She put down her chopsticks in surprise, then after a moment suggested, how about we buy some fruit later and go plead with him? Xiao Nian isn't the kind of child who forgets old ties. With a loud clatter, I threw my chopsticks to the ground. My mom sobbed as she leaned on Uncle Wang's shoulder. She's been stubborn since she was little. Whenever things don't go her way, she throws things and loses her temper. If her father hadn't been so faithless, would I have had to raise a child all alone, bearing everyone's contempt? Have I had it easy? Uncle Wang held her tenderly. From now on you have me, you don't have to carry this alone. I sneered. Right, you're the only one who's never wrong. You're the most wronged of all. Without paying any more attention to the sentimental scene behind me, I turned and left. From the time I became aware, being isolated and bullied made up my entire childhood. I was just leverage for my mother to trap my biological father. After repeated pleas and attempts to hold on only angered him, we ended up wandering from place to place, stuck with the label of wild child. City after city, no one welcomed us, and there was always someone trying to take advantage of my family. Like a stray dog, I drove them off to protect our rights, only to be cursed as a bastard who's petty and has no father. My mom always said, a family without a man won't work. Widows and orphans will be bullied. She was soft-natured, pinning all her hopes on men one after another. As a steady stream of new uncles approached with ulterior motives, I was 12 when I came home to find a drunk man pinning my mother to the floor, beating her. The person lying there barely alive was my only family in the world. I used every ounce of my strength to fight a grown man. When he lost his mind and pulled out a knife, I actually felt relieved, thinking that everything could finally end. But my mother threw herself in front of me, holding me without hesitation, her white clothes turning red inch by inch. I thought in this life, we were destined to torment each other. After everything you've given to the company, are you really okay with leaving? Yarrow Yarrow was someone I had mentored, and she genuinely regretted my departure. I rested my chin on my hand and took a small sip of sake. I am okay with it. 10 years of love and resentment. I once dreamed of the future too, but once I was forced to choose between two impossible options under that beam. This game had no winner. Spilled water can't be recovered. Leaving in time to cut my losses was the best among bad choices. Seeing that I had no intention of turning back, Yarrow Yarrow began to vent. Jiu Yinian, to appease Xu Jiaojiao, had given her a sinecure executive position at the company. Xu Jiaojiao, suspicious all day long, interrogates every unmarried woman, imposes absurd performance reviews, and even forbids female employees from wearing makeup or skirts to work. She doesn't even spare clients, costing the company several deals. That was something I hadn't expected. Jiu Yinian, always so composed and proper, would allow such outrageous behavior. Maybe the Jiu Yinian I knew was never the real him, or perhaps his indulgence toward Xu Jiaojiao was an exception. Either way, none of it has anything to do with me anymore. The day I left Beijing, a light drizzle was falling. My mother was busy cultivating a bond with her new son and gave me only a few rushed words of advice before hanging up. Just before boarding the plane, Lu Mingjing called me. His childhood friend, we had met a few times and knew each other fairly well, had somehow learned that I was leaving the country. Xiong Yuan, you don't need to flee abroad. I've set up a get-together and I'll be there this year too. Let's clear the air. We can still be friends. In the private room, Lu Mingjing clenched his phone, his expression grim. On the other end, Xiong Yuan had hung up directly. When he called again, all he got was a mechanical female voice. The atmosphere in the room dropped to freezing. Jiu Yinian's gaze had grown utterly dark. Suppressing his anger, this call had been made at his behest. He thought that by softening she would take the olive branch. He asked himself, hadn't he been good enough to her? True, he had first noticed Xiong Yuan because of her beautiful face, but later he was drawn by her relentless spirit. He still remembered her standing at the awards ceremony, questioning the principal about the fairness of scholarships, a small figure defying the conventions of the world. He admitted Xiong Yuan was exceptional, but Beijing was never short of brilliant people. He had given her resources, introduced her to connections, lifted her to where she was today, and even made their relationship public among his friends. What more could she possibly want? If you can't let it go, then go after it. The moment Lu Mingjing finished speaking, his wife sincerely tried to comfort him. Jiu Yi irritably lit a cigarette and sneered, "It was just a fling. Does she really think she's something?" He deliberately stubbed out the cigarette, pretending to be nonchalant, but his recent uncharacteristic behavior betrayed his bravado. For example, deliberately indulging Xu Jiaojiao's antics, having people pass messages to Xiong Yuan and keeping tabs on her in real time several times. He lingered outside Xiong Yuan's apartment only to leave. Lu Mingjing had advised him more than once to face his true feelings. Jiu Yinian dismissed it. Xiong Yuan was only acting tough because she knew he cared. He could give her everything, and he could just as easily take it all away. Now that relations with his family had eased, with just one word, plenty of people would vie to do his bidding. He would wait to see the calculating woman lose everything. Wait for the day when Xiong Yuan had no way out and came crawling back to him. By then, for the sake of their 10 years together, he might reluctantly take her back. After turning off my phone, my world finally fell quiet. For the first 27 years of my life, I was always rushing, never daring to stop, as if the world would abandon me the moment I paused. Xiong Yuan, what are you chasing? I asked myself, my heart feeling hollow. With no answer. They say that those who see the aurora at the edge of the world will have all their wishes come true. After arriving in Northern Europe, I found a homestay to settle into. Jiu Yinian and I had once come here on a business trip, but we had to rush back due to snowfall. Many others had come to chase the aurora like me, and by coincidence we all stayed at the same homestay. Some were friends, families, or couples, and we spontaneously formed a little sightseeing group. This town had no skyscrapers, only endless snow-capped mountains and fjords. The sunset glow reflected off the white mountain peaks as a plane took off against the afterglow, stirring up flocks of seagulls that circled in the sky with chirping cries. Night fell, clouds gathered, and only a few stars were visible. But where there's a will, there's a way. Someone suggested we chase the light, so a few of us rented a car, hired a local aurora hunter, and embarked on this childish light-chasing journey. The car drove on through the hazy night until a glow appeared at the edge of the sky. It was the aurora. Someone cheered with joy. The glowing mass, connecting sky and water, pierced through layer after layer of mountains, striking the soul. "Why aren't you making a wish?" someone asked me. I was speechless. Perhaps I once had many desires, like wanting my mother to care about me a little more, or wanting to grow old with Gu Yinian. But at this moment, I couldn't utter a single word. The young man beside me prayed devoutly. "I hope my mother gets well." I followed his example, clasped my hands together, and silently prayed, "May I be healthy and may my wishes come true." By the campfire, travelers held mugs of hot cocoa and shared their stories. Some wished for a lifelong love with one person, others prayed with their last hopes for their family's safety. I had never been so peacefully immersed in the present moment. Before, my mind was filled only with weighing pros and cons, risk analysis, and confirming returns. Acting on emotion had always been a luxury for me. If I fell into an abyss, no one would pull me up. They might even kick me down further. Gu Yinian's appearance gave me moments of respite in my suffocating days, allowing me to ponder the realm of emotion I dared not touch. I told him again and again about my flaws, my family, my shame, trying to scare him off, to convince him I wasn't worth the effort. Yet each time he walked toward me with unwavering resolve, affirming everything about me, only to shatter it all in the end, smashing it to pieces and driving knife after knife into my heart, bloody and raw, yet accompanied by an extreme, thrilling release. The heavy snow wrapped around me, the tears in my eyes freezing before they could fall. I opened my arms wide, reveling in a dance with the snow, responding to a fantasy of peace. It doesn't matter, nothing matters. Thick ink-black clouds pressed down on warmth, and people sighed in disappointment. What bad luck, it's snowing, let's go back. On the way to town, disaster struck without warning. The car rolled several times. Outside, everything was a blur of white. An avalanche had hit. Panic, blame, and self-pity filled the air. I had imagined countless times what it would be like for my family to go to an amusement park, me with a beautiful bow in my hair, riding on my father's shoulders, shedding all my thorns, acting like a real child and pointing at a plush doll I wanted, whining, "Mom, I want that one." But in that life or death moment, I suddenly realized that human bonds are always temporary, whether family, friendship, or love. Just like now, the earlier lament inside the car turned into mutual encouragement. "We're all going to make it," someone shouted, and everyone began furiously chipping at the window. Before this, we were strangers, yet we supported each other because of this shared journey. After today, a single leg of the journey over mountains and rivers, we would become mere passers-by in each other's lives. Rescued. I lay limp on the ground and drew a small sun in the soft snow, a symbol unique to Seongnyuan. The world cycles and changes, my traces will eventually be erased, but I was truly, tangibly here. Love yourself before loving others. Stuck in the mire, only you can save yourself. I think my own journey has just begun. At Mrs. Gu's birthday banquet, Xu Jiaojiao stood beside her in a dark blue gown. The guests were all wealthy or powerful, yet Gu Yinian lingered at the edge of the crowd, staring into the night as if this splendor had nothing to do with him. People passing by raised their glasses in congratulations. "Congratulations, young Master Gu, on finding such a beautiful lady." Indeed, this was also the day of his engagement to Xu Jiaojiao. Everyone thought young Master Gu was so overjoyed he couldn't contain himself, downing drink after drink. But Gu Yinian, drunk and unsteady, holding Xu Jiaojiao in his arms, called out my name instead. This is the on-site video Yaro Yaro sent me. That day's incident caused a huge scene. Xu Jiaojiao left in tears and Gu Yinian was beaten by his father and sent straight to the hospital. Seong Nuan, I didn't know you and Mr. Jiu had a past and I kept bringing up Xu Jiaojiao. You must have been really upset back then. Yaro apologized over the phone. I shook my head. It's all in the past. Only now do I realize that Jiu Yinian never saw me as an equal. Maybe he had some feelings for me, but that's all they were, just some feelings. He could be with Xu Jiaojiao for the sake of family interests, and he could use any means necessary to force me to submit for his own selfish desires. Since he had lifted me up, he had the power to take it all away. My real estate was inexplicably frozen and most of my mutual funds and stocks evaporated. Thinking back to that late-night message, "Come back to me, and all of this is still yours." Coercion and inducement had once been our tactics on the battlefield of business, but now he was using them against me, someone who had once fought alongside him. I gave a faint smile, removed the SIM card from my phone, tossed it into the trash and walked against the light toward my next destination. At the hospital, Jiu Yinian was wrapped in bandages. His assistant stood trembling by his side, bowing as he reported, "Ever since the boss publicly revealed his relationship with President Seong at the engagement party, he's lost his usual composure and grown increasingly irritable. The executive office is suffering. They've been contacting overseas contacts almost around the clock, monitoring everything Seong Nuan does abroad, reporting every detail. President Seong has gone off the grid, buried in an avalanche." Jiu Yinian's heart shuddered violently, his pupils nearly losing focus before the assistant could finish. A glass flew past his forehead and shattered on the floor. "Nonsense, get out." Jiu Yinian went wild, ignoring his own unhealed injuries, propping himself up on crutches to investigate in person. But the answer he got was still, "This person cannot be reached." The news was just reporting. Due to extreme weather, an avalanche hit a small town in Western Europe, burying several tourists. Rescue operations are underway. He's going to be fine. Jiu Yinian shook his head while trying to reassure himself. He's the most cunning one. He must be hiding somewhere. Jiu Yinian ignored Alland, immediately ordered a private jet to head to Northern Europe as fast as possible to drag her back. But before he could even leave the hospital, he was escorted back to his room. To prevent his injuries from worsening, Mrs. Jiu had no choice but to tie him to the bed and administer a sedative. She had never seen her son so manic and out of control. Jiu Yinian had once brought the girl home, but she came from a poor background, carried too much emotional baggage, lacked the desired purity, and was burdened with too many complications. Having lived long enough to see the tactics of such women around her husband, Mrs. Jiu simply didn't want her son to go through the same ordeal. "Mom, please let me go find her," begged the emaciated Jiu Yinian from his hospital bed. Her heart softened and she promised him that if he focused on recovering, she would help locate the girl. The Jiu family exhausted all their connections, but to no avail. They found only a diary and a pregnancy report, showing that Seong Nuan was already over 3 months pregnant. Jiu Yinian's eyes turned red, his fingers trembling as he opened the diary. "A year had passed. You once said that lovers who see the northern lights together will meet again in the next life. Too bad we never saw the lights and we've long drifted apart. Now I've brought our baby to see them. The aurora is so beautiful. If you were here, you'd be in awe of nature's wonder. Oh, and by the way, I'm pregnant even though you took precautions." This little life quietly arrived. "Does this mean the bond between us hasn't been severed? I want to return to China and tell you about the baby. Clearly, I am the victim of my original family, yet here I am, despicably wanting to use this child to keep you. Until the news broadcast your wedding announcement with Xu Jiaojiao, I quietly cancelled my return ticket. Every new thing on the journey, even an ordinary cloud, I wanted to share with you. In the past, I wouldn't have dared to have such thoughts. I know the gap between us, so I never dared to stop, barely summoning the courage to stand beside you. The heavy snow feels like it's about to swallow us. Maybe the baby and I can never go back. It must be fate. Neither I nor the child in my womb was ever meant to be wanted." Jiu Yinian was already sobbing uncontrollably on the hospital bed. The diary's last entry was dated February 20th, the 10th anniversary of the day they got together. The final line read, "Jiu Yinian, happy wedding to you and may you have a son soon." Jiu Yinian seemed like a different person, staring blankly out the window. These days, Ji Yinian constantly replays every moment he shared with Seong Nuan. They spent 10 years together, over 3,000 days and nights, intertwined and supporting each other. He had long been in too deep to pull himself out, not just physically connected but spiritually in sync. Only after spending a few days with Xu Jiaojiao did he realize that what he truly wanted wasn't a gentle, attentive woman who revolved around him, but the one who needed only a single glance to overcome any obstacle and move forward with him in harmony. But he lost her, and their child with her. What was he doing back then? Oh, he was busy getting engaged to someone else. At this thought, Ji Yinian's heart feels like it might burst, an uncontrollable wail piercing through his chest, the pain nearly suffocating. Ji Yinian lies on the bed surviving on nutritional drips. Lu Mingjing visits him a few times and upon seeing his hunger strike can't help but shout, "Where was this energy before? Now that she's dead, you're playing the devoted lover. Who are you performing for?" Ji Yinian struggles to sit up, but his strength fails him, so he can only stiffen his neck and retort, "She's not dead, both she and the child are fine." If Ji Yinian weren't already half dead, Lu Mingjing would have punched him. "Then go find her, damn it, what's with this pathetic act?" Hearing this, Ji Yinian suddenly seems infused with energy, ordering food to be brought and shoving it desperately into his mouth, but his stomach, already ravaged, can't handle it. He collapses to his knees and vomits violently right after eating. Xu Jiaojiao comes to visit as soon as Ji Yinian shows slight improvement, though she still harbors resentment over Seong Nuan. Since the woman is gone, competing with a dead person feels beneath her. Besides, in wealthy marriages it's common for spouses to go their own ways. Ji Yinian is handsome and comes from a good family, and she has genuinely grown fond of him. Best case, feelings might develop over time. Worst case, she grew up witnessing the tactics of the elite and can handle 80% of them. As long as she has a child to secure her position, the rest of her life should be worry-free. But the moment she steps inside, Ji Yinian grabs her by the throat. "If it weren't for you, she never would have gone abroad with the child. How dare you show up in front of me? You killed her." Ji Yinian's grip tightens and Xu Jiaojiao can't even get out a full cry for help. Ji Yinian has gone mad, completely mad. If Madame Ji hadn't arrived in time, the consequences would have been dire. Lord Ji is furious and orders him to be sent away for close treatment. While rebuilding his strength, Ji Yinian secretly looks for chances to escape. Finally, one day when the medical staff are lax during shift change, he sneaks out and heads for his former love without a second thought, searching for her year after year amid the endless snowy mountains. 3 years later, I was on vacation on a small island in the southern hemisphere. Next to me, the little one waved his chubby hand and whined, "Mommy, buy me an ice cream please." The young man helping me apply sunscreen chuckled, "Say daddy and I'll buy it for you." "Daddy, daddy, don't spoil him. He'll throw a tantrum if he gets cavities." Before I could finish, the big one and the little one had already scampered off. I put on my sunglasses in silence and continued sunbathing. Suddenly my back tensed, and the pressure from his hands grew heavier. Frowning in displeasure, I said, "Ease up." The breathing behind me seemed to quicken, but I didn't think much of it until a warm palm traveled down my spine and pressed firmly into the hollow 3 inches above my waist. I couldn't help but cry out. Luckily, no one was around to witness my embarrassment. I turned angrily to see Ji Yinian's face twisted with suppressed rage. He was gaunt, with dark circles under his eyes, clearly lacking rest for a long time. "Do you know how long I've been looking for you?" Ji Yinian choked out. "I thought you really. Aren't you happy I'm alive?" I said, steadying myself. Ji Yinian's eyes burned red as he stared at me, his voice nearly overflowing with grievance. Trembling uncontrollably, I thought, if I couldn't find you in this world, I would have gone to hell for you. If someone hadn't said they saw you here, you'd never see me again. And then what are you, some priceless treasure?" I left without expression, only to have Ji Yinian grab my wrist and yank me toward him. "I searched for you for 3 years, 3 whole years. I had nothing but the notebook you left behind to get me through those long icy nights. For you, I gave up everything. Even knowing you deceived me, I still pitifully softened, just begging for us to go back to how we were. Isn't my sincerity enough? You trample my feelings for me like this." Ji Yinian's eyes reddened as he roared, "Seong Nuan, do you even have a heart?" As Ji Yinian and I were struggling, The little one had somehow returned and jabbed 2 ice cream cones against Jiu Enian's knees, leaving sticky cream smeared over his suit fabric. "You big bully, let her go." Jiu Yinian looked down at the child, whose features slightly resembled his own, and a glimmer of tenderness crossed his eyes. "Mine." Before I could respond, the little one shouted toward the distance, "Daddy, come quick, there's a bad guy." Jiu Enian's face darkened and he gritted out, "You let my son call someone else daddy." When Li Mike rushed over, he punched Jiu Yinian. Jiu Enian's lip bled. He wiped it away and stopped the bodyguards behind him from advancing. "Seong Nuan, come back with me or I'll kill this pretty boy." Young and hot-headed, Li Mike immediately retorted, "Old man, how dare you threaten me?" As the Li family's security guards gathered around their young master, I hesitated. They had the resources, but I didn't dare get too involved. Our child was already gone. I didn't say it out loud, just turned and left with the little one. Jiu Enian's bodyguards surged forward but were blocked by the Li family's team. "Don't leave, you said you loved me." That diary, I refused to believe it was all fake. His desperate shouts echoed behind me. 3 years ago, I was under surveillance at all times. Every step I took met with obstruction. I had no choice but to bribe connections, keep my own information sealed, and also send Jiu En a grand gift. I wanted him to remember me constantly, to remember how our child and I had died in despair. At that time, he was deeply entangled with his new flame. I intended to magnify his guilt indefinitely, so that every day thereafter, whenever he touched happiness, remorse would follow him for life. That diary was half truth, half fiction. The mother of the little guy was my business partner, and I took the boy as my godson. Jiu En still couldn't let go. He secretly took a strand of the child's hair for a DNA test. The result left him dejected for a long time. He had to accept that our child was gone, that on the day he got engaged to Xu Jiaojiao, our child had gone to another family, a family where the parents loved each other. Jiu En did not return to the country. Instead, he tracked down my address. Compared to his fruitless search 3 years ago, I was not surprised. By now, I had long made peace with the fact that he could find these things. After all, 3 years had passed, and there was no need to hide from him anymore. "Seong Nuan, give me a chance to make it up to you, please." Jiu En blocked my way. The man I once knew had always been arrogant and above it all, yet now he was bending before me, pleading. I paused and looked coldly at this man who had once been by my side. If everything could be compensated, then what about the desperate, nearly hopeless me from 3 years ago? Jiu En, we are both adults, let's keep some dignity. Recalling the words he had once said to me, I added, let's part on good terms. Jiu En tried to step forward, but my assistant Lin Yi blocked him. "Sir, please have some self-respect." Lin Yi's tone was mild yet carried an unspoken authority. "If you persist in this harassment, we will take legal measures to have you repatriated." Lin Yi opened the back door and raised a hand to shield my head as he saw me into the car. Jiu En gritted his teeth, glaring at Lin Yi's overly familiar motion. "Who are you?" After closing the door, Lin Yi calmly handed his business card to Jiu En. "I am Lin Yi, Ms. Xiong's personal assistant. If you need anything, make an appointment with me for her time." The car moved steadily forward. I glanced back and saw Jiu En clenching his fists, staring fixedly in the direction we had left. I couldn't help but laugh and teased Lin Yi in the passenger seat. "Assistant Lin, I thought you were always so steady, but you're surprisingly good at riling people up." Lin Yi's face remained expressionless. "It's my job, TSK, no sense of humor, boring." I looked down to deal with documents. In a corner unseen, Lin Yi stared at the figure in the rearview mirror and tightened his grip. Under Lin Yi's arrangements, I rarely ran into Jiu En again. I affirmed his workability and raised his year-end bonus commission by another 2%. Lin Yi remained expressionless as he placed a cup of brown sugar water and a heat pack on my desk. I slapped my forehead. "No wonder I've been so irritable lately, it's my period." I collapsed onto the sofa and Lin Yi arranged the meal containers. "This isn't the place I usually order from." Lin Yi took out chopsticks and a spoon from the bag and handed them to me, saying unhurriedly, "This is chicken soup I made, don't order takeout for the next few days." I pursed my lips. It's hard to turn down homemade soup, but I've been trying to lose weight. Just as I was hesitating, Lin Yi had already filled a bowl and handed it to me, saying softly, "I've skimmed off the oil. It won't make you gain weight. I couldn't help but sigh. Whoever ends up marrying you should set off firecrackers for 3 days and 3 nights. Lin Yi lowered his gaze as I drank the soup, a flicker of some unreadable emotion crossing his face. He moved his lips as if to speak, but was interrupted by 2 childish voices. Godmother, godmother, warm, my godson and I came to see you. Little Bean and Lee Mike rushed over, but Lin Yi steadily caught them in front of me. Godmother, will you take me to the amusement park? Little Bean shook my leg. I clutched my aching belly and forced a smile. How about another day? Godmother isn't feeling well today. Little Bean's round eyes darted around and suddenly he shouted joyfully, I have a little sister now, don't I? He rubbed his chubby face against my stomach. Godmother, you finally agreed to give me a little sister with godfather. I glared at Lee Mike, who was shrinking into the corner, poking his fingers and pretending to be a quail. Lin Yi stood up, grabbed Little Bean by the collar and carried him out. Uncle Lin has some summer homework for you. When he came back, I had just finished scolding Lee Mike. Stop dragging Little Bean into your mischief. Seeing Lee Mike about to drink the chicken soup, Lin Yi strode over and snatched the bowl away. What do you mean by that, Assistant Lin? Lee Mike frowned in dissatisfaction. Lin Yi's face was cold, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. Drink this and you'll end up impotent. Damn it. The next time I saw Jiu Yin was in my company's conference room where he came as a client. I don't accept handouts, but I won't turn down what I've earned. Jiu Yin had abandoned his usual faultless business demeanor. Lee Mike, however, grew more unreasonable by the day, camping out in my office and following me everywhere. But I could do nothing about it. He's a distant relative of my business partner, a half-Chinese, half-British golden boy, the youngest son doted on by everyone in his family. After he interrupted my project meeting with Jiu Yin for who knows how many times, I lost my temper. Lee Mike froze for a moment, his European-style peach blossom eyes instantly filling with grievance. It won't happen again. Since then Lee Mike had kept a low profile for a while. He stopped wearing leather jackets and switched to suits, with his shoulder-length hair slicked back with gel. He actually took on a somewhat composed air when the kid dressed up. He looked quite presentable. Tossing the contract onto the table, he retorted, I'm not a kid, I've grown up. Something must have spurred him because he ran home to take over a company and came to discuss a collaboration with me. When it came to work, he was tired, hungry, and on the verge of dozing off, but the moment Jiu Yinyan was mentioned, he immediately went on alert like a possessive little dog, squinting with undisguised hostility. Though vaguely uneasy, I chalked it all up to his young master tantrums. It wasn't until the celebration banquet after the project's flawless completion that Jiu Yinyan gently clinked his glass against mine, his eyes deep and dark. Xiong Nuan, we still work together as seamlessly as before. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to call us a perfect match. Before he could finish, the lights suddenly dimmed and a soothing romantic concerto began to play. When the lights came back on, Lee Mike walked toward me holding Ecuadorian roses. He dropped to one knee and presented a diamond ring. Nuan Nuan, will you marry me? I quickly pulled him to his feet and lowered my voice. Are you crazy? I'm 11 years older than you. Lee Mike held my hand tighter, his tone aggrieved. Are you rejecting me because I'm too young? I've grown up, I can be mature and steady too. I sighed and gently pushed his hand away. You don't need to change for anyone. I only see you as a mischievous little brother. A flicker of disappointment passed through Lee Mike's eyes, then hope reignited. Then try to get used to it, see me as your lover. Just as I was at a loss for how to make him give up, Ling Yi draped his jacket over my shoulders and led me off the stage. Back at the villa, I sighed in relief. Ling Yi brought me a cup of soothing tea, then stood behind me and gently massaged my temples with his fingertips. Thanks, it's my job. Just then my partner called. I pursed my lips and answered. Go on, don't make fun of me, I'm about to lose my mind. Lee Mike is of mixed Chinese and British heritage, stands 187 centimeters tall, and has a net worth in the hundreds of millions. How is he not good enough for you? I'm 11 years older than him. He's just a kid. Immediately Lee Mike's irrepressible voice came through. I'm not a kid, Nuan Nuan, I really like you so much. Lee Mike wanted to say more but was cut off by Dowding's mom. He's 19 here, unlike back home. You can legally marry. If you're worried about his family, don't be. They're very open-minded. Whatever Lee Mike likes is fine with them. Even if you decide to play the heartbreaker, his family can handle the fallout. He didn't force me to say this, it's all true. 30 is the age to take risks. I rejected Lee Mike outright, but he wouldn't give up. Citing work, he lingered around the office and secretly competed with Jiu Yinian. I had to keep my distance. I let Lingyi handle both of them. Lingyi always managed things well, and I enjoyed a stretch of peaceful days, but that peace didn't last long. Jiu Yinian had been drinking and was making a scene at my front door. Xiong Nuan, what do I have to do for you to forgive me? I'll give you everything I have, everything. Come home with me, please. Lee Mike was right beside him, joining the chaos. Your dirty stuff, no one would want that even if you threw it in the trash. Nuan, don't take his, take mine, mine is clean. I pinched the bridge of my nose and peeled off the fresh face mask, barely holding back the urge to slap both men outside. I called Li Jiu and had him come pick up the drunk Lee Mike. The argument outside continued. Jiu Yinian didn't actually see Lee Mike as a rival, he was more wary of Lingyi. He was convinced Xiong Nuan didn't go for brash young guys. In terms of temperament and ability, he was far more composed than a dependent rich kid like Lee Mike. Jiu Yinian let out a cold snort, provoked by his romantic rival. Lee Mike immediately snapped back. Old and broken, and you dare snort at me? That jab hit Jiu Yinian where it hurt, and his anger flared with the alcohol. Xiong Nuan and I were together for 10 years, we even had a child. As soon as he said it, Jiu Yinian froze. That seemed to be the last shred of leverage he had, and now he was on the verge of giving up entirely. And you still couldn't keep her heart? That just shows how pathetic you are. Lee Mike fired back without hesitation, shoving Jiu Yinian away until the dazed man stumbled and fell to the ground. When I opened the door, the Lee family had just arrived to pick up their little young master. I had never seen Jiu Yinian look so desolate. He slumped to the ground with a wounded expression, his eyes filled with despair as he looked at me. Xiong Nuan, do you know, during these 3 years of searching for you, I often dreamed of that child crying bitterly, waving his little hands and asking me why I abandoned him. It felt like my heart was being gouged out. I'm sorry, Xiong Nuan, I truly am sorry to you both. Jiu Yinian covered his eyes with one hand, trying to preserve the last shred of his dignity, but tears seeped through his fingers. First, I sighed. Go back, don't come looking for me anymore, there's no going back for us. Recalling how spirited he once was, after 3 years of mental torment, still in his early 30s but with a few silver threads now in his glossy black hair, my heart grew even heavier. Let this ill-fated bond be completely severed. Jiu Yinian fell to his knees and tugged at my clothes. Please, give me one more chance, I've fallen for you for life, have pity on me, forgive me, won't you? I didn't look back. Silence was my answer. Falling in the same place once is enough. The past cannot be chased after, but the future is yet to come. Under the streetlight, Jiu Yinian could no longer suppress his surging emotions. Clutching the shirt over his chest, he curled up in a corner, letting out mournful sounds. He could only watch helplessly as his beloved walked away. Xiong Nuan, with her back to him, never looked back. Once he thought that separation by life and death was the most painful. Only now did he understand. The distance that is both within reach and endlessly far is the most torturous and unbearable. The one walking away was the treasure he had found in his youth, but now, that treasure no longer belonged to him and had utterly abandoned him. In the corner where he no longer showed up, the gold still shone with its captivating light. He had to admit that without him, Xiong Nuan was still living well. She had never been anyone's accessory in this entanglement. Only he remained stuck in place, forever and ever stuck in place. The end.